most importantly, with yourself. This community is a safe space for everyone, and I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for clicking. Thank you for being here. Today's video, I am here to help you to decide which book to read next. I will be reading the back and chapter one of 4 books. The first being Flawless by Elsie Silver, which I am 100 and some odd pages, 118 pages into. So far for me, it's a 10 out of 10. And then we'll also be doing Daisy Jones and the Six, ACOTAR, or A Court of Thorns and Roses, and Scarred. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. The back of Flawless by Elsie Silver says, the rules were simple. Keep my hands off his daughter and stay out of trouble. But now I'm stuck with her. There's only one bed. And well, rules are made to be broken. I'm the face of professional bull riding, the golden boy. Or at least I was, until it all blew up in my face. Now my agent says I have to clean up my image, so I'm stuck with his ball-busting daughter for the rest of this season as my full-time supervision. But I don't need a goddamn babysitter, especially one with skin-tight jeans, a sexy smirk, and a mouth she can't stop running. A mouth I can't stop thinking about. Because Summer isn't just another conquest. She sees the man behind the mask and she doesn't run. She pulls me closer even when she shouldn't. She says this means nothing. I say this means everything. She says that there are boundaries we shouldn't cross, that my reputation can't take any more hits, and neither can her damaged heart. I say I'm going to steal it anyway. This is like a sassy, sexy, grumpy sunshine romance. So, let's go back in time to honestly, I wrote this book for myself, for the girl who never quite knew what she wanted to do with her life, and the woman who figured it out. Sometimes we seize the moment, and sometimes it seizes us. Greg Lavoie. Chapter 1, Summer. You got one angry motherfucker here, Eaton. The handsome cowboy on the back of the huge bull scoffs and shifts his hand around the rope before him. His dark eyes lips as he speaks. You look cute in those ads with it painted above your lip though. Cute for an old guy. The younger man winks and the two men share a friendly laugh as Rhett rubs a hand up the rope methodically. I'd rather get bucked off a pool every damn day than drink that shit. Their laughter is all I hear as my father pauses the video on the large flat screen, redness creeping up his neck and onto his face. Okay, I venture cautiously, trying to piece together why that exchange requires this impromptu meeting with the two newest full-time hires at Hamilton Elite. No, not okay. This guy's the face of professional bull riding, and he just skewered his biggest sponsors. But it gets worse. Keep watching. He hits play again, aggressively, like the button did something wrong in this whole affair, and the screen flashes to a different scene. Rhett is walking outside of an arena through the parking lot with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. The helmet is now replaced with a cowboy hat, and a slim man in dark baggy clothes is taking quick strides to keep up with his target, while the cameraman follows and runs tape. I don't think the paparazzi usually follow bull riders, but Rhett Eaton has become something of a household name over the years. Not a paragon of purity by any stretch, but a symbol of rough and tumble, rugged countrymen. The reporter takes a little skip step to get far enough ahead that he can line his microphone up with Rhett's mouth. Rhett, can you comment on the video that's been circulating this weekend? Any apologies you'd like to make? The cowboy's lips thin, and he tries to hide his face behind the brim of his hat. A muscle in his jaw flexes, and his toned body goes taut. Tension lines every limb. No comment. He bites out through gritted teeth. Come on, man, give me something. The slender guy reaches out and presses the microphone against Rhett's cheek, forcing it on him even though he declined to comment. Your fans deserve an explanation, the reporter demands. No, they don't, Rhett mutters, trying to create space between them. Why do these people think they're owed a response when they ambush a person who's otherwise minding his own business? How about an apology, the guy asks, and then Rhett decks him in the face. It happens so fast that I blink in an attempt to follow the now shaking and swiveling camera angles. Well, shit. Within seconds, the bushy paparazzi is on the ground, clutching his face, and Rhett is shaking out his hand as he walks away without a word. The screen switches back to news anchors sitting behind a desk, and before they can give any input on what we watched, my dad flicks the TV off and lets loose a rumbling sound of frustration. I hate these fucking cowboys. They're impossible to keep in line. I don't want to deal with him. So lucky for you two, this job is up for grabs. He's practically vibrating with rage, but I just lean back in my chair. My father flies off the handle easily, but he gets over things quickly too. I'm pretty nonplussed by his mood swings at this point in my life. You don't last long at Hamilton Elite if you can't withstand Gib Hamilton. Luckily for me, I have a lifetime of learning under my belt to brush off his moods, so I'm immune. I've come to think like it's part of his charm, so I don't take it personally. He's not mad at me. He's just mad. I worked my ass off for years to get this country bumpkin sponsorships like he's never dreamed of, and then his career is winding down. He goes and blows it all up like this. My father's hand flicks over at the wall-mounted screen. Do you have any idea how much money these guys make for being nuts enough to climb up on an angry 2,000-pound bull summer? Nope, but I have a feeling he's about to tell me. I hold my father's dark eyes, the same shade as my own. Jeff. Geoff. The other intern in the chair beside me shrinks down in his seat. They make millions of dollars if they're as good as this asshole. I never would have guessed this was such a big business, but then they don't cover that in law school. I know all about Red Eaton, heartthrob, bull riding sensation, and mainstay teenage crush, but almost nothing about the actual industry or sport. One corner of my lip tugs up as I think back on how a decade ago I'd lie in my bed and gaze at that photo of him. Red stepped up on a fence, glancing back over his shoulder at the camera. Open land behind him, a warm setting sun, a flirty smirk on his lips, eyes partially obscured by a worn cowboy hat and the pièce de résistance, Wrangler jeans that hugged all the best parts. So yeah, I know a little about bull riding, but I know I spent an awful lot of time staring at that photo. The land, the light, it drew me in. It wasn't just the guy. It made me want to be there watching that sunset for myself. George, do you know how much that milk sponsorship he flushed down the toilet was worth? Not to mention all the other sponsors whose balls I'll be fondling to smooth this shit over. I swear to God, I almost snort. George. I know my dad well enough to know that he's aware it's the wrong name, but it's also a test to see if Jeff has the cojones to say anything. From what I gather, it's not always a walk in the park working with entitled athletes and celebrities. I can already tell the guy behind me is going to struggle. He flips through the binder on the boardroom table in front of him, and I let my gaze linger on the floor-to-ceiling windows, the ones that offer sweeping views out over the Alberta prairies. From the 30th floor of this building, the view over Calgary is unparalleled. The snow-capped Rocky Mountains off in the distance are like a painting. It never gets old. The answer is tens of millions, Craig. I bite the inside of my cheek to keep from chuckling. I like Jeff, and my dad is being a total dick, but after years of being on the spot in the same way, it's amusing to see someone else flounder the way I have in the past. God knows my sister, Winter, was never on the receiving end of this kind of grilling. She and Kip have a different relationship than mine with our father. With me, he's playful, shoots from the hip. With her, he stays almost professional. I think she likes that better anyway. Jeff looks over at me with a flat smile. I've seen that expression on people's faces at work many times. It says, must be nice to be the boss's little girl. It says, how's that nepotism treating you? But I'm trained to take this kind of lashing. My skin is thicker. My give a fuck meter is less attuned. I know that in 15 minutes, Kip Hamilton will crack jokes and be smiling. That perfect veneer he uses to suck up to lines will quickly slip back into place. The man is a master, even if a bit of a weasel. But I think that comes with the territory of wheeling and dealing the contracts he does as a top-tier talent agent. If I'm being honest, I'm still not so sure I'm cut out to be working here. Not sure I really want to, but it's always seemed like the right thing to do. I owe my dad that much. So the question is, kids, how does one go about fixing this? I've got the Dairy King milk sponsorship hanging by a thread. I mean, a fucking professional bull rider just shattered his entire base. Farmers, dairy producers. Seems like it shouldn't matter, but people are going to talk. They're going to put him under a microscope, and I don't think they'll love what they see. This will dent the idiot's bottom line more than you'd think. And his bottom line is my bottom line, because this nut job makes us all a lot of money. How did the first recording even get out, I ask, forcing my brain back onto the task at hand. A local station left their camera running. My dad scrubs a hand over his clean-shaven chin, got the whole damn thing, and then subtitled it and ran it on the evening news. Okay, so he needs to apologize, Jeff tosses out. My dad rolls his eyes at the generic solution. It's gonna need to do a hell of a lot more than apologize. I mean, he needs a bulletproof plan for what's left of the season. He's got a couple of months until the World Championships in Vegas. We're gonna need to polish up that cowboy hat halo before then, or other sponsors are going to drop like flies too. flinches and I roll my eyes. See, that right there is the issue. Red Eaton is not the wholesome country boy next door. He's a cocky cowboy that parties too hard and has hordes of women throwing themselves at him every weekend. And he's not mad about it. It hasn't been an issue before, but they'll pick apart anything they can now, like fucking vultures. I quirk an eyebrow and lean back. Red is an adult, and surely with an explanation of what's on the line, he can hold it together. After all, he pays for the company to manage this stuff for him, so he can't be on his best behavior for a couple months. My dad drops his head with a deep chuckle. This summer, this man's version of good behavior will not cut it. You're acting as if he's some sort of wild animal Gip. I learned the hard way not to call him dad at work. He's still my boss, even if we carpool together at the end of the day. What does he need? A babysitter. The room is quiet for several beats while my dad stares at the tabletop between his hands. Eventually, his fingers tap the surface of it. Something he does when he's deep in thought. A habit I've picked up from him over the years. His almost black eyes lift, and a wolfish grin takes over his entire face. Yeah, Summer, that's exactly what he needs. And I know the perfect person for the job. And based on the way he's looking at me right now, I think Red Eaton's new babysitter just might be me. Okay. I'm gonna put my bookmark back in the spot that it was in. That book for me is a 10 out of 10 so far. It's a very slow burn type of book, and I just love it. The first couple chapters are kind of like setting everything up, setting the scene. So this book is it's not dirty. It's supposed to look like that. I was like, what in the actual book are these stains? But it's supposed to be that way. So next up, we've got Daisy Jones and the Six by Jenkins Reid, who is the author of The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And the back says, Daisy is a girl coming of age in LA in the late 60s, sneaking into clubs on the Sunset Strip, sleeping with rock stars, and dreaming of singing at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Her voice is getting noticed, and she has the kind of heedless beauty that makes people do crazy things. Crazy. Also getting noticed is the Six, a band led by the brooding Billy Dunn, I think. On the eve of their first tour, his girlfriend Camilla finds out she's pregnant, and with the pressure of impending fatherhood and fame, Billy goes a little wild on the road. Daisy and Billy cross paths when a producer realizes that the key to supercharged success is to put the two together. What happens next will become the stuff of legend. The making of that legend is chronicled in this riveting novel, written as if it were the oral history of one of the biggest bands of the 70s. In Daisy Jones and the Six, Jenkins Reid brilliantly captures an unforgettable place and time in an utterly distinctive voice. I am very excited to see what chapter 1 reads like, because I am halfway through the Amazon Prime series, which is very good. And I've heard several booktubers, booktalkers, say that this is a book you can read in a day, which is exciting. Little author's note. Okay. Jones, 1965 to 1972. Daisy Jones was born in 1951 and grew up in the Hollywood Hills of Los Angeles, California, the daughter of Frank Jones, the well-known British painter, and Jean Lefebvre, a French model. Daisy started to make a name for herself in the late 60s as a young teenager on the Sunset Strip. Elaine Chang, biographer, author of Daisy Jones, A Wildflower. Here's what is so captivating about Daisy Jones, even before she was Daisy Jones. You've got a rich white girl growing up in LA. She's gorgeous, even as a child. She has these stunning big blue eyes, dark cobalt blue. One of my favorite anecdotes about her is that in the 80s, a color contact company actually created a shade called Daisy Blue. She's got copper red hair that is thick and wavy and takes up so much space. And then her cheekbones almost seem swollen. That's how defined they are. She's got an incredible voice that she doesn't cultivate, never takes a lesson. She's born with all the money in the world, access to whatever she wants. Artists, drugs, clubs, anything and everything at her disposal. But she has no one, no siblings, no extended family in Los Angeles. Two parents who are so into their own world that they are all but indifferent to her existence, although they never shy away from making her pose for their artist friends. The artists that came into that home saw Daisy Jones, saw how gorgeous she was, and wanted to capture her. It's telling that there is no Frank Jones piece of Daisy. Her father is too busy with his male nudes to pay much attention to his daughter. And in general, Daisy spends her childhood rather alone. She's actually a very gregarious, outgoing kid. Daisy would often ask to get her hair cut just because she loved her hairdresser. She would ask neighbors if she could walk their dogs. There was even a family joke about the time Daisy tried to bake a birthday cake for the mailman. So this is a girl that desperately wants to connect. But there's no one in her life who is truly interested in who she is, especially not her parents. And it really breaks her. But it is also how she grows up to become an icon. We love broken, beautiful people, and it doesn't get much more obviously broken and more classically beautiful than Daisy Jones. So it makes sense that Daisy starts to find herself on the Sunset Strip, this glamorous, seedy place. Daisy Jones, singer, Daisy Jones and the Six. I could walk down to the Strip from my house. I was about 14, sick of being stuck in the house, just looking for something to do. I wasn't old enough to get into any of the bars and clubs, but I went anyway. I remember bumming a cigarette off a roadie for the Birds when I was pretty young. I learned quickly that people thought you were older, and sometimes I'd wear a bandana headband like the cool girls had on. I wanted to fit in with the groupies on the sidewalk, with their joints and their flasks and all of that. So I bummed a cigarette from this roadie outside the Whiskey A Go-Go one night, the first time I'd ever had one, and tried to pretend I did it all the time. I held the cough in my throat and what have you, and I was flirting with him the best I could. I'm embarrassed to think about it now, how clumsy I probably was. But eventually some guy comes up to the roadie and says, "We gotta get inside and set up the amps." And he turns to me and says, "You coming?" And that's how I snuck into the whiskey for the first time. I stayed out that night until 3 or 4 in the morning. I'd never done anything like that before. But suddenly it was like I existed. I was a part of something. I went from 0 to 60 that night. I was drinking and smoking anything anybody would give me. When I got home, I walked in through the front door, drunk and stoned, and crashed in my bed. I'm pretty sure my parents never even noticed I was gone. I got up, went out the next night, did the same thing. Eventually, the bouncers on the Strip recognized me and let me in wherever I was going. The whiskey, London fog, the riot house. No one cared how young I was. Greg McIntyre, former concierge, the Continental Hyatt House. Oh man, I don't know how long Daisy was hanging around the Hyatt House house before I noticed her, but I remember the first time I saw her. I was on the phone and in walks this crazy tall, crazy skinny girl with these bangs. She also had this smile, huge smile. She came in the arm of some guy, I don't remember who. A lot of the girls around the strip back then, I mean, they were young, but they tried to seem older. Daisy just was, though. It didn't seem like she was trying to be anything except herself. After that, I noticed she was at the hotel a lot. She was always laughing. There was nothing jaded about her, at least when I knew her. It was like watching Bambi learn how to walk. She was real naive and real vulnerable, but you could tell there was something about her. I was nervous for her, to tell you the truth. There were so many men in the scene that were into young girls, 30-something rock stars sleeping with teenagers. Not saying it was okay, just saying that's how it was. How old was Lori Maddox when she was with Jimmy Page? 14. And Iggy Pop and Sable Star. He sang about it, man. He was bragging about it. When it came to Daisy, I mean, the singers, the guitars, the roadies, everybody was looking at her. Whenever I saw her, though, I tried to make sure she was doing alright. I kept tabs on her here and there. I really liked her. She was just cool. Cooler than anything else happening around her. Daisy. I learned about sex and love the hard way, that men will take what they want and feel no debt, that some people only want one piece of you. I do think there were girls, the blaster casters, some of the GTOs. Maybe they weren't being taken advantage of, I don't know. But it was a bad scene for me at first. I lost my virginity to somebody that it doesn't matter who it was. He was older, he was a drummer. We were in the lobby of the Riot House and he invited me upstairs to do some lines. He said I was the girl of his dreams. I was drawn to him mainly because he was drawn to me. I wanted someone to single me out as something special. I was just so desperate to hold someone's interest. Before I knew it, we were on his bed, and he asked me if I knew what I was doing, and I said yes, even though the answer was no. But everyone always talked about free love and how sex was a good thing. If you were cool, if you were hip, you liked sex. I stared at the ceiling the whole time, waiting for him to be done. I knew I was supposed to be moving around, but I stayed perfectly still, scared to move. All you could hear in the room was the sound of our clothes rubbing up against the bedspread. I had no idea what I was doing or why I was doing things I knew I didn't want to be doing. But I've had a lot of therapy in my life now. And I mean a lot of therapy. And I see it now. I see myself clearly now. I wanted to be around these men, these stars, because I didn't know how else to be important. I figured I had to please them if I wanted to stay. When he was done, he got up and I pulled my dress down and he said, "If you want to go back down to your friends, that's alright." I didn't really have any friends, but I knew he meant I needed to leave, so I did. He never talked to me again. Simone Jackson, disco star. I remember seeing Daisy on the dance floor one night at the Whiskey. Everybody saw her. Your eye went right to her. It was the rest of the world was silver. Daisy was gold. Daisy. Simone became my best friend. Simone. I brought Daisy out with me everywhere. I never had a sister. I remember it was the Sunset Strip riot when all of us went down to Pandora's and protested the curfew and the cops. Daisy and I went out, protested, met up with some of the actors, and went over to Barney's Beanery to keep partying. After that, we went back to somebody's place. Daisy passed out on this guy's patio. We didn't go home until the next afternoon. She was maybe 15. I was probably 19. I just kept thinking, doesn't anybody care about this girl but me? And by the way, we were all on speed back then, even Daisy as young as she was. But if you wanted to stay skinny and be up all night, you were taking something. Mostly pennies or black beauties. Daisy. Diet pills were an easy choice. It didn't even feel like a choice. It didn't even feel like we were getting high at first. Coke too. If it was around you, you took a bump. People didn't even consider it an addiction. It wasn't like that. Simone, my producer, bought me a place in Laurel Canyon. He wanted to sleep with me. I told him no, and he bought it for me anyway. I had Daisy move in. We ended up sharing a bed for 6 months. So I can tell you firsthand that that girl never slept. I'd be trying to fall asleep at 4 in the morning, and Daisy would want the light on so she could read. Daisy, I had pretty bad insomnia for a long time. Even when I was a kid, I'd be up at 11 o'clock saying I wasn't tired, and my parents would always yell at me to just go to sleep. So in the middle of the night, I was always looking for quiet things to do. My mom had these romance novels hanging around, so I would read those. It'd be 2 in the morning, and my parents would be having a party downstairs, and I'd be sitting on my bed with my lamp on, reading Dr. Zhivago or Peyton Place. And then it just became habit. I would read anything that was around. I wasn't picky. Thrillers, detective novels, sci-fi. Around the time I moved in with Simone, I found a box of history biographies on the side of the road one day up in Beechwood Canyon. I tore through those in no time. Simone, I'll tell you, she's the entire reason I started wearing a sleeping mask. Laughs. But then I kept doing it because I looked chic. Daisy, I was living with Simone for 2 weeks before I went home to get more clothes. My dad said, "Did you break the coffee maker this morning?" I said, "Dad, I don't even live here." Simone, I told her the one condition of living with me was that she had to go to school. Daisy, high school was not easy for me. I knew that I had to get an A. You had to do what you were told. But I also knew that a lot of what we were being told was bullshit. I remember one time I was assigned an essay on how Columbus discovered America, so I wrote a paper about how Columbus did not discover America, because he didn't. But then I got an F. I said to my teacher, "But I'm right." And she said, "But you didn't follow the assignment." Simone, she was so bright, and her teachers didn't seem to really recognize that. Daisy, people always say I didn't graduate high school, but I did. When I walked across the stage to get my diploma, Simone was cheering for me. She was so proud of me, and I started to feel proud of myself too. That night, I took the diploma out of its case, and I folded it up, and I used it like a bookmark in my copy of Valley of the Dolls. Simone, when my first album flopped, my record label dropped me. My producer kicked us out of that place. I got a job waiting tables and moved in with my cousin in Leimert Park. Daisy had to move back in with her parents. Daisy, I just packed up my stuff from Simone's and drove it right back to my parents' place. When I walked in the front door, my mom was on the phone, smoking a cigarette. I said, "Hey, I'm back." She said, "We got a new couch," and then just kept on talking on the phone. Simone, Daisy got all of her beauty from her mother. Jean was gorgeous. I remember I met her a few times back then. Big eyes, very full lips. There was a sensuality to her. People used to always tell Daisy she looked just like her mother. They did look similar, but I knew better than to tell Daisy that. I think one time I said to Daisy, "Your mom is beautiful." Daisy said to me, "Yeah, beautiful and nothing else." Daisy, when we got kicked out of Simone's house, that was the first time I realized that I couldn't just float around living off of other people. I think I was 17 maybe, and it was the first time I wondered if I had a purpose. Simone, sometimes Daisy would be over at my place, taking a shower or doing the dishes. I'd hear her sing Janis Joplin or Johnny Cash. She loved singing Mercedes-Benz. She sounded better than anybody else. Here I was trying to get another record deal, taking voice lessons all the time, really working at it. And Daisy, it was so easy for her. I wanted to hate her for it, but Daisy's not very easy to hate. Daisy, one of my favorite memories was Simone and I were driving down La Cienega together, probably in my BMW I had back then. They've got that huge shopping center there now, but back then it was still the record plant. I don't know where we were headed, probably to Jan's to get a sandwich, but we were listening to Tapestry, and You've Got a Friend came on. Simone and I were singing so loud along with Carole King, but I was really listening to the lyrics too. I was really feeling it. That song always made me thankful for her, for Simone. There's this peace that comes with knowing you have a person in the world who would do anything for you, that you would do anything for. She was the first time I ever had that. I got a little bit teary in the car listening to that song. I turned to Simone and I opened my mouth to talk, but she just nodded and said, "Me too." Simone, it was my mission to make Daisy do something with her voice, but Daisy wasn't going to do a single thing she didn't want to do. She'd really come into herself by then. When I met her, she was still a bit naive. Daisy. I was seeing a couple guys back then, including Wyatt Stone of The Breeze, and I didn't feel the same way about him that he felt about me. This one night, we were smoking a joint up on the roof of this apartment over on Santa Monica, and Wyatt said, "I love you so much, and I don't understand why you don't love me." I said, "I love you as much as I'm willing to love anybody," which was true. I wasn't really willing to be vulnerable with anybody at that point. I had felt too much vulnerability too young. I didn't want to do it anymore. So that night after Wyatt goes to bed, I can't sleep, and I see this piece of paper with this song he's writing, and it's clearly about me. It says something about a redhead and mentioned the hoop earrings that I was wearing all the time. And then he had this chorus about me having a big heart but no love in it. I kept looking at those words thinking, this isn't right. He didn't understand me at all. So I thought about it for a little while, and I got out a pen and paper. I wrote some things down. When he woke up, I said, "Your chorus should be more like big eyes, big soul, or big heart. No control, but all she got to give is tiny love." Wyatt grabbed a pen and paper and said, "Say that again." I said, "It was just an example. Write your own goddamn song." Simone, Tiny Love was The Breeze's biggest hit, and Wyatt pretended he wrote the whole thing. Wyatt Stone, lead singer of The Breeze. Why are you asking me about this? This is water under the bridge. Who even remembers? Daisy. It was starting to be a pattern. Once I was having breakfast at Barney's Beanery with a guy, this writer-director, but I was also always tired in the morning because I wasn't sleeping enough. So I needed coffee. Of course, I couldn't just order coffee because I'd be too amped from the pills I was taking. And I couldn't just have the champagne because it would put me to sleep. You understand the problem. So I used to order champagne and coffee together. And at the places where servers knew me, they used to call it an up and down. Something to keep me up and something to keep me down. And this guy thought it was hilarious. He said, "I'm going to use that in something one day." And he wrote it down on a napkin and put it in his back pocket. I thought to myself, what the hell makes you think I'm not going to use it in something one day? But of course, there it was in his next movie. That's how it was back then. I was just supposed to be this inspiration for some man's great idea. Well, fuck that. That's when I started writing my own stuff. Simone. I was the only one encouraging her to make something of herself with her talent. Everybody else just tried to make something of themselves with what she had. Daisy. I had absolutely no interest in being somebody else's muse. I'm not a muse. I am the somebody in the fucking story. I've never read a book with that kind of point of view, where it's like it says their name every paragraph, and it's like they're being interviewed for a documentary. But that's just exactly how the show is, and it's pretty accurate as well with the show. Next up beast-like creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragged into a treacherous magical land she knows only about from legends, Farah discovers that her captor is not an animal, but Tamlin, one of the lethal immortal fairies who once ruled their world. As Farah dwells on his estate, her feelings for Tamlin transform from icy hostility into a fiery passion that burns through every lie and warning she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae. But an ancient, wicked shadow over the fairylands is growing, and Farah must find a way to stop it, or doom Tamlin and his world forever. Here is our map. Chapter 1. The forest had become a labyrinth of snow and ice. I've been monitoring the perimeters of the thicket for an hour, and my vantage point in the crook of a tree branch has turned useless. The gusting wind blew thick flurries to sweep away my tracks, but buried along with them any signs of potential quarry. Hunger had brought me farther from home than I usually risked, but winter was the hard time. The animals had pulled in, going deeper into the woods than I could follow, leaving me to pick off the stragglers one by one, praying they'd last until spring. They hadn't. I wiped my numb fingers over my eyes, brushing away the flakes clinging to my lashes. Here there were no telltale trees stripped of bark to mark the deer's passing. They would remain until the bark ran out, then travel north past the wolves' territory, and perhaps into the fairylands of Prithian, where no mortals would dare go, not unless they had a death wish. A shudder skittered down my spine at the thought, and I shoved it away, focusing on my surroundings, on the task at hand. That was all I could do, all I'd been able to do for years. Focus on surviving the week, the day, the hour ahead. And now with the snow, I'd be lucky to spot anything, especially from my position up in the tree, scarcely able to see 15 feet ahead. Stifling a groan as my stiff limbs protested at the movement, I unstrung my bow before easing off the tree. The icy snow crunched under my fraying boots, and I ground my teeth. Low visibility, unnecessary noise. I was well on my way to yet another fruitless hunt. Only a few hours of daylight remained. If I didn't leave soon, I'd have to navigate my way home in the dark, and the warnings of the town hunter still rang fresh in my mind. Giant wolves were on the prowl and in numbers, not to mention whispers of strange folk spotted in the area, tall and eerie and deadly. Anything but fairies, the hunters had besieged our long-forgotten gods, and I had secretly prayed alongside them. In the 8 years we'd been living in our village, 2 days' journey from the immortal border of Prithian, we'd been spared an attack, though traveling peddlers sometimes brought stories of distant border towns left in splinters and bones and ashes. These accounts, once rare enough to be dismissed by the village elders as hearsay, had in recent months become commonplace whisperings on every market day. I had risked much in coming so far into the forest, but we'd finished our last loaf of bread yesterday and the remainder of our dried meat the day before. Still, I would have rather spent another night with a hungry belly than found myself satisfying the appetite of a wolf or a fairy. Not that there was much for me to feast on. I'd turned gangly by this time of year and could count a number of my ribs. Moving as nimbly and quietly as I could between the trees, I pushed a hand against my hollow and aching stomach. I knew the expression that would be on my 2 elder sisters' faces when I returned to our garden. few holes in the ice suggested it was still frequently used. Hopefully something would come by. Hopefully. I sighed through my nose, digging the tip of my bow into the ground, and leaned my forehead against the crude curve of the wood. We wouldn't last another week without food, and too many families had already started begging for me to hope for handouts from the wealthier townsfolk. I'd witnessed firsthand exactly how far their charity went. I eased into a more comfortable position and calmed my breathing, straining to listen to the forest over the wind. The snow fell and fell, dancing and curling like sparkling spindrifts. The white fresh and clean against the brown and gray of the world. And despite myself, despite my numb limbs, I quieted that relentless, vicious part of my mind to take in the snow-veiled woods. Once it had been second nature to savor the contrast of new grass against the dark, tilled soil, or an amethyst brooch nestled in the folds of emerald silk. Once I dreamed and breathed and thought in color and light and shape. Sometimes I would even indulge in envisioning a day when my sisters were married and it was only me and father, with enough food to go around, enough money to buy some paint, and enough time to put those colors and shapes down on paper or canvas or the cottage walls. Not likely to happen anytime soon, perhaps ever. So I was left with moments like this, admiring the glint of pale winter light on snow. I couldn't remember the last time I'd done it, bothered to notice anything lovely or interesting. Stolen hours in a decrepit barn with Isaac Hale didn't count. Those times were hungry and empty, and sometimes cruel, but never lovely. The howling wind calmed into a soft sighing. The snow fell lazily now in big fat clumps that gathered along every nook and bump of the trees. Mesmerizing, the lethal, gentle beauty of snow. I'd soon have to return to the muddy, frozen roads of the village, to the cramped heat of our cottage. Some small, fragmented part of me recoiled at the thought. Bushes rustled across the clearing. Drawing my bow was a matter of instinct. I peered through the old thorns, and my breath caught. Less than 30 paces away stood a small doe, not yet too scrawny from winter, but desperate enough to wrench bark from a tree in the clearing. A deer like that could feed my family for a week or more. My mouth watered. Quiet as the wind hissing through dead leaves, I took aim. She continued tearing off strips of bark, chewing slowly, utterly unaware that her death waited yards away. I could try half the meat, and we could immediately eat the rest. Stews, pies, our skin could be sold or perhaps turned into clothing for one of us. I needed new boots, but Elaine needed a new cloak, and Nesta was prone to crave anything someone else possessed. My fingers trembled. So much food, such salvation. I took steady breath, double checking my aim. But there was a pair of golden eyes shining from the brush adjacent to mine. The forest went silent. The wind died. Even the snow paused. We mortals no longer kept gods to worship, but if I had known their lost names, I would have prayed to them. All of them. Concealed in the thicket, the wolf inched closer, its gaze set on the oblivious doe. He was enormous, the size of a pony, and though I'd been warned about their presence, my mouth turned bone dry. But worse than his size was his unnatural stealth. Even as he inched closer in the brush, he remained unheard, unspotted by the doe. No animal that massive could be so quiet. But if he was no ordinary animal, if he was of Prithian origin, if he was somehow a fairy, then being eaten was the least of my concerns. If he was a fairy, I should already be running. Yet maybe it would be a favor to the world, to my village, to myself, to kill him while I remained undetected. efficient, and likely no more than bee stings to a wolf that size. But the third arrow, the longest and heaviest one, I'd bought from a traveling peddler during the summer when we'd had enough coppers for extra luxuries. An arrow carved from mountain ash, armed with an iron head. From songs sung to us as lullabies over our cradles, we all knew from infancy that fairies hated iron. But it was the ash wood that made their immortal healing magic falter long enough for a human to make a killing blow, or so legend and rumor claimed. The only proof we had of the ash's effectiveness was its sheer rarity. I'd seen drawings of the trees, but never one with my own eyes, not after the high fae had burned them all long ago. So few remained, most of them small and sickly and hidden by the nobility within high-walled groves. I'd spent weeks after my purchase debating whether that overpriced bit of wood had been a waste of money or a fake, and for 3 years the ash arrow had sat unused in my quiver. Now I drew it, keeping my movements minimal, efficient, anything to avoid that monstrous wolf looking in my direction. The arrow was long and heavy enough to inflict damage, possibly kill him, if I aimed right. My chest became so tight it ached, and in that moment I realized my life boiled down to one question. Was the wolf alone? I gripped my bow and drew the string farther back. I was a decent shot, but I'd never faced a wolf. I thought it made me lucky, even blessed. But now I didn't know where to hit or how fast they moved. I couldn't afford to miss. Not when I only had one ash arrow. And if it was indeed a fairy's heart pounding under that fur, then good riddance after all their kind had done to us. I wouldn't risk this one later creeping into our village to slaughter and maim and torment. Let him die here and now. I'd be glad to end him. The wolf crept closer, and a twig snapped beneath one of his paws, each bigger than my hand. The doe went rigid. She glanced either side, ears straining towards the gray sky. With the wolf's downwind position, she couldn't see or smell him. His head lowered, and his massive silver body, so perfectly blended into the snow and shadows, sank onto its haunches. The doe was still staring in the wrong direction. I glanced from the doe to the wolf and back again. At least he was alone. At least I'd been spared that much. But if the wolf scared the doe off, I was left with nothing but a starving, oversized wolf, possibly a fairy, looking for the next best meal. And if he killed her, destroying precious amounts of hide and fat. If I judged wrongly, my life wasn't the only one that would be lost, but my life had been reduced to nothing but risks these past 8 years. That I'd been hunting in the woods, and I'd picked correctly most of the time. The wolf shot from the bush in a flash of gray and white and black, his yellow fangs gleaming. He was even more gargantuan in the open, a marvel of muscle and speed and brute strength. The doe didn't stand a chance. I fired the ash arrow before he destroyed much else of her. The arrow found its mark in his side, and I could have sworn the ground itself shuddered. He barked in pain, releasing the doe's neck as his blood sprayed on the snow, so ruby bright. He whirled toward me, those yellow eyes wide, hackles raised. His low growl reverberated in the empty pit of my stomach as I surged to my feet, snow churning around me, another arrow drawn. But the wolf merely looked at me, his maw stained with blood, my ash arrow protruding so vulgarly from his side. The snow began falling again. He looked with a sort of awareness and surprise that made me fire the second arrow, just in case that intelligence was of the immortal wicked sort. He didn't try to dodge the arrow as it went clean through his wide yellow eye. color and darkness world, eddying my vision, mixing with the snow. His legs were twitching as a low whine sliced through the air. Impossible. He should be dead, not dying. The arrow was through his eye, almost to the goose fletching. But wolf or fairy, it didn't matter. Not with that ash arrow buried in his side. He'd be dead soon enough. Still my hands shook as I brushed off snow and edged closer, still keeping a good distance. Blood gushed from the wounds I'd given him, staining the snow crimson. He pawed the ground, his breathing already slowing. Was he in much pain, or was his whimper just his attempt to shove death away? I wasn't sure. I wanted to know. The snow swirled around us. I stared at him until that coat of charcoal and obsidian and ivory ceased rising and falling. Wolf. Definitely just a wolf, despite his size. The tightness in my chest eased, and I loosed a sigh. My breath clouding in front of me. At least the ash arrow had proved itself to be lethal, regardless of who or what it took down. A rapid examination of the doe told me I could carry only one animal, and even that would be a struggle. But it was a shame to leave the wolf. Though it wasted precious minutes during which any predator could smell the fresh blood, I skinned him and cleaned my arrows as best I could. If anything, it warmed my hands. I wrapped the bloody side of his belt around the doe's death wound before I hoisted her across my shoulders. It was several miles back to our cottage, and I didn't need a trail of blood leading every animal with fangs and claws straight to me. Grunting against the weight, I grasped the legs of the deer and spared a final glance at the steaming carcass of the wolf. His remaining golden eye now stared at the snow-heavy sky, and for a moment I wished I had it in me to feel remorse for the dead thing. But this was the forest, and it was winter. I really like the way the fantasy and world building is written, the descriptive, things that she's talking about with the snow and the forest. I love that. And then our fourth and final book in this face-off is another viral booktok and booktube recommendation, Scarred, a Never After novel by Emily McIntire. She doesn't belong to him. She belongs to the crown. Prince Tristan Vasa was never destined for the throne. That was always his brother Michael, the same brother responsible for both Tristan's tormented childhood and the scar that mars his face. When their father dies, Michael is set to assume the throne, and Tristan is set to steal it. The leader of a secret rebellion, Tristan will stop at nothing to end his brother's reign. But when Michael's new betrothed, Lady Sarah Betrow, arrives, Tristan finds himself in the middle of a new kind of war. The kind that begs the question of what's more important, the crown or the woman about to wear it. Sarah has one plan: marry the king and eradicate the Vasa line, even at the risk of her own peril. But she never expects the scarred prince. He's dangerous, forbidden, and one of the men she's been sent to kill. But the line between hatred and passion has never seemed so thin, and as secrets come to light, Sarah grows unsure of whom she can trust, torn between vengeance and the villain she was never supposed to love. So this, much like ACOTAR, is going to be a dark romance, and the Never After series is, from what I understand, it's adult sort of takes on Disney stories. So this is obviously, if you couldn't tell from Tristan Fossa, Michael Fossa, and Sarah Beatro, but B for short, which is similar to Sarabi. I'm kind of interested to see what that is like. It says, for the freaks, the misfits, the bullied, the loners, the insecure, the damaged, you are worthy, you are warriors. And doubt thou, the stars are fire, doubt that the sun doth move, doubt truth to be a liar, but never doubt I love. William Shakespeare, Hamlet. The author's note says, Scarred is a dark royal romance. It is a fractured fairy tale, not fantasy or a retelling. The main character is a villain. If you're looking for a safe read, you will not find it in these pages. Scarred contains mature and graphic content that is not suitable for all audiences. Reader discretion is advised. I highly prefer you to go in blind, but if you would like a detailed trigger warning list, you can find it at emilymcintire.com. Let's get into it. Gloria Terra. We've got the shield, the family crest, and the world map. Gloria Terra, Gloria Terra. Prologue, Tristan. Loyalty, 1 word, 3 syllables, 7 letters, 0 meaning. Although if you listen to my brother's never-ending speeches, you'd think it runs through his veins thicker than the blood that binds us. If you listen to gossip in the court, you'd believe the same. Prince Michael will make a fine king, carry on his father's legacy, that's to be sure. Something thick lodges its spiked edges in my throat, my gaze moving between the roaring flames of the fireplace at the other end of the room and the oil lamp placed in the center of the table, the one occupied by the members of the Privy Council. Half a dozen faces, and not one of them filled with grief. My chest pulls. Life is about appearances, sire, and for appearances' sake, we must do what needs to be done. Xander, my father's, now my brother's, head advisor states his focus on where Michael sits. Just as it's known your father passed peacefully in his bed, it's also known you have quite the appetite. Xander, please, I cut in, pressing my back against the wood-paneled wall. No need to convince us of where my father died. My eyes move to my mother, the only woman in the room, as she dabs beneath her hollow brown eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. Normally, she wouldn't be here in Saxum at all, choosing to spend most of her days in the countryside estate. But seeing as how we're fresh off the funeral of her husband, Michael insisted she stay, and his word is law. It's the peaceful part we have to lie about, I continue, my gaze settling on my brother. A small smirk pulls at his lips, his amber eyes sparkling. A fiery rage surges through my middle and up my throat, wrapping around my tongue, the taste bitter and tart. My boot smacks the wood as I push off the wall and move toward the center of the room until I'm towering over the table, wedged between my mother and Xander. I take my time soaking in every single face that sits here, as if it's just another day, their statures stuffed full of pomp and importance, as if we didn't just lose someone important, someone vital, the only person left who cared. I'm sure I don't know what you mean, Xander squawks, his voice pinched as he pushes up his horn-rimmed glasses. I lift my chin as I stare down at him, noting the gray strands peppering his otherwise dark hair. He's been with the family for years, ever since I was a boy, and at first he was a treasured person in my life. But life is ever-changing, and Xander's warmth was doused quickly with the icy bitterness of greed, just like the rest of them. Of course not. I am tapping my finger against my temple. bully me. Can we get back to the subject? Michael huffs, running his hand over his head, the light brown strands ruffling under his fingers. How father took his last breath is not what's important. Michael, my mother gasps, still dabbing away under her lids. Spinning until I face her, I lean down, reaching out to wipe her face, the ridge of her cheek hard against my palm. She sucks in a breath as she looks up at me, her eyes shimmering, and I press my thumb into her skin before pulling away to glance my hand. My stomach burns when I realize the pads of my fingers are still dry as a bone. Actors, all of them. Mother, I tisk. Stop the dramatics. Any more fake tears and you'll wrinkle. Winking, I pat her cheek and stand up straight, noticing every eye in the room is on us. It's no secret there's no love lost between her and me. I grin, allowing my lips to peel back from my teeth as I look from one person to the next. The air thins and Lord Reginald, one of the council members, shifts in his velvet back chair. Relax. I roll my eyes. I won't do anything untoward. Lord Reginald scoffs, and my attention falls to him. Something he'd like to share, Reginald. He clears his throat, his cheeks growing ruddy, showcasing the nerves he's trying so very hard to hide. You'll forgive me for not believing you, Tristan. I cock my head. I think you mean Your Highness. His mouth purses before he bows his head. Of course, Your Highness. My jaw ticks as I take him in. Reginald has always been one of the weakest members of the council, bitter and jealous of everyone else. He attached himself to my brother's side when they were young, and he stayed through every moment of torture inflicted on me, through the years at Michael's, and his pack's hands. But I'm no longer a child, and they can't bully me like they used to. Xander pinches the bridge of his nose. Sire, please, you need a wife. Your people need a queen. They have one, Michael booms, his head nodding toward our mother. I do not wish to marry. No one is asking you to stop your dalliances, Xander sighs, but these laws have been in place for generations. To not take a wife, it'll make you look weak. If you're not up to the duty, brother, by all means, do us a favor and disappear. I wave my hand through the air. Michael's eyes narrow as they snap to mine, the corner of his mouth twisting into a mocking grin. And leave Gloria Dara to you. Chuckles burst from around the table, and my muscles tighten beneath the surface of my skin, the urge to show them all just how easily I can make them bow, streaming through my insides. The wooden clock snicks as its long hand moves, drawing my attention away. It's nearing supper. My fingers tense as they run through the disheveled black strands of my hair, and I back up a pace toward the large double oak doors. Well, this has been a treat, I start, but sadly I've grown bored. You're not dismissed, Tristan, Michael snaps. You do not dismiss me, brother, I sneer, anger snapping at my chest. I could not care less about which unfortunate soul will have the torment of you running into them for eternity. So disrespectful, Xander spits, shaking his head. Your brother is the king. A grin spreads across my face, and I lock my gaze on Michael's anticipation thrumming through my veins. Well then, I incline my head. Long live the king. That was really good. I'd say probably just based off of first chapter alone, Scarred, and I'm such a fantasy girl. ACOTAR are right up my based on first chapter alone. Daisy Jones is gonna be really, really good. I'm just not much of a like Billy Daisy, you know, back and forth. It's written as if it's the script of the documentary. So I don't know, but it's obviously gonna be really good regardless. And then I'm already in Flawless. I'm 118 pages in, and there has not been a single flirting moment or kiss or anything like that. And let's see, we've got a total of 434 pages. 434 pages. So we'll get there. Again, it's a slow burn, but I'm enjoying the burn. I'm enjoying all of that. I'm really trying to savor this book, but I also need to just finish it. And let me know which book you think you'll be reading next, or which book you're currently reading. Doesn't even have to be one of these, but I am interested to know who your winner is. I think if I had to pick one just off first chapter, probably Scarred for me. Probably Scarred. That was really interesting. And we haven't even met Sarah B, or anything like that yet. So let me know your thoughts down below. And until next time, and in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I love you. Balls. Why is that flickering? Greetings, Earthlings. My name is Elle, and welcome back to my channel. The goal of my ASMR. They've really started doing construction the second I've sat down to film at 12:30 p.m. on a fucking Saturday. I could cry. I spent 2 hours getting ready, and the weekends are all I have. I just went outside and walked into the back fence line, and I swear to God, it rained like crazy all morning. It was what woke me up at like 8, and it's sunny now, but there are puddles everywhere. And I shit you not, they're out there trying to make the machines go, like the excavators and stuff, with the big like wheels with the chain and rubber. They're out there like with shovels, breaking mud globs from all of the rain today out as the machines get stuck. It's literally going on 1 p.m. on a Saturday. Like, why would they get started right now? Why are we doing this on a Saturday? Is this legal? I'm not trying to be a complainer, but Jesus fucking Christ. I am disappointment. Here is one of my flowers that's blooming today. She's stunning. Stunning. And then look at that peony. It's a peony. I have fucking paused this video every 10 to 20 to 30 seconds just to cut out all the fucking constant airplanes, the fucking constant noises in this house, the fucking constant construction noises, and the goddamn non-stop driving up and down this fucking back road of your boyfriend. So, I would really appreciate a fucking like on this video. If you're not subscribed, because I don't even know how long this video is going to be for me to read 4 fucking chapter 1s of 4 books, but it's taken me 3 hours to film so far, and that's not including the hour it took to do my nails, my makeup, the other time it takes to set up the lights and shit. I'm also my own editor. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck, dude? Like, what the fuck? What the fuck?